All right, Solomon, I appreciate you coming in today, joining us. We just want to ask you a few questions, man, about yourself. So, Solomon, start off with, can you just give a little information about yourself, where you're from, and what agency you represent?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I pretty much played basketball my whole life, so I was introduced to the game really early. And pretty much just like every basketball player, you grow up, you play AAU basketball, you travel or all summer, and then when it becomes year round, it's a little more serious. So I played high school. I attended Cherokee Trail High School. We were one of the better teams in state. We ended up losing in the Elite Eight senior year. That's as far as the school's ever went. So that was really really good season. After that, I went to a prep school in Phoenix called Westwind Prep. It is now Hillcrest Prep. So that was a really good experience for me because I was playing with 12 Division 1 high Division 1 athletes, so it was definitely a different style of play, different game for me. But that was probably one of the biggest years for me, just in understanding what it really took to get to the next level, because I was playing with such high level athletes. So fast forward to after my prep school year, I did a year of junior college at Napa Valley College, which is where I met Cy. We were teammates for a season. And the coach that was actually my prep school coach ended up getting an assistant coaching job at Texas Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, in the WAC conference. So when he went there, he hit me up and was asking if I'd be willing to go there as a walk on, and just earn my way around. And I was excited to do that. Jumped at that opportunity, played played on the team for 2 seasons, and then after that, you kind of let reality set in. I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going to the NBA. I want to stay involved in the game somehow. So let me just focus on school my last 2 years of undergrad. So I did my last 2 years of undergrad at UNT. I transferred to UNT in Denton, Texas. And while I was doing my undergrad, I got connected with the Texas Legends G League team, and I was working in their operations department as an intern for the remainder of that season. I joined around about halfway through the season, and I did that for a season and a half. That was a great thing to see because a lot of people assume that NBA and G League jobs are just so luxurious, but it's a lot of grunt work, especially at the G League level. I feel like the NBA kind of purposely makes it um, seem less resourceful than the NBA, and less resources, less money, because essentially it's there for the players to just really grind it out. So upon doing that, I was able to build my contact and my networks of just all types of NBA personnel, from GMs to coaches to players. And I kind of thought about it, and I didn't really like you know the day-to-day stuff of working in a front office atmosphere, but I knew I still wanted to stay within the game somehow. So I just did some brainstorming. um, I figured, what do I do well? What value do I bring to the business? And through playing basketball for years, I had built relationships with so many athletes that went on to, play high divisional basketball. Some get drafted, and some overseas having good careers. So I knew a lot of players. So I felt like the agency side would be something that I could do well in. I had a fairly good understanding of just how the business worked, just from being a fan of the game and enjoying the game. You kind of just force yourself to just learn the business just naturally. So I did that, and upon deciding that I wanted to be an agent, I reached out to every single agent that was on the NBA MBPA directory, and just I was seeking internships. I sent over 1,000 emails, probably got 20 replies, probably got 17 no's. But my current partner now, he actually read my email and he gave me a call. And from that initial phone call, we found out that we knew a lot of mutual players, a lot of mutual people. So it just made sense to form a business relationship from that standpoint. So we worked. He gave me small tasks here and there, and the relationship just slowly started to grow organically. So I've been with Odyssey Sports Group now for about 3 years, and we've been fortunate to see the business grow every single year since I've been on board. So I'm just fortunate for that, and looking forward to seeing what the future holds for sure.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So, give us a little bit of information about Odyssey Sports Group. I mean, how long has the agency been going down, and also, what's some of the players you guys got, or what's the clientele you guys have, et cetera?
So Odyssey, my partner was doing it for about 2 years prior to me joining the team. So I guess you can say about 5.5, 6 years we've been in existence. Right now, we currently represent two G League players, Isaiah Wright, who was with the Stockton Kings from San Diego, point guard. He just completed his rookie season. And Shaquan Aaron, who was a USC graduate. He was a former top 100 recruit, All-American coming out of high school. And we have 15 overseas clients at the moment, counting our current roster from this recruiting season. So right now we're on the up and up. We actually just expanded our staff. We hired Trey Steele, who is a very experienced veteran in the overseas market, and he sort of handles our overseas guys, just because he's built such a great rapport with teams and GMs overseas. He's able to kind of twist the arms a little better than we are. So we hired him on to handle our overseas department, and we also added Andrew Canavos, who was formerly a contributor for Slam, and he is our social media guy. So he kind of runs our social media, gets our graphics and stuff going. So that's kind of what we have going on right now. We're pretty small, kind of by design. We like to really be able to tailor and cater to all of our clients. So we try not to stretch ourselves too thin to the point where we can't be there when our guys need us. Rather that's hey, what does this mean, or can you look over this? I'm not sure about this part of the contract, or hey, I'm having girlfriend problems. What should I do? So we try to just be there for our guys, 24/7. Our phones are on, and we really pride ourselves on the guys that we go after. We don't just recruit anybody. Yeah, we want, a top 5 pick. What agency doesn't? But at the same time, what is his life like at home? How does he treat his teammates? What was he like in the classroom? What does he do in the grocery store when he's with his friends? So, we kind of take all those things into consideration because, we really like to build lifelong relationships with our clients beyond just basketball.
Oh man, yes, I like that a lot. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, one thing when I was playing that I had a problem with a lot of agencies was, it just wasn't enough attention. It wasn't enough. You just felt like a guy on a list almost because, they were so concerned about, sometimes they're higher up guys or they had too many clients where you just felt like you were left out. You didn't get any attention. So, it's a dope thing to hear that you guys, limit your clientele just to make sure you're able to meet the needs of each and every one of your clients. So that's pretty dope, man. From what you've seen in your time being an agent, what are some good overseas exposure camps that you have heard of that you can say, like, you know what, this is a good exposure camp for guys who want to play professional basketball, who want to pick up an agent or where they're going to be? Because you got a lot of exposure camps out here where guys are being bamboozled in a sense, where they're like, yeah, the agents are watching live stream, and a lot of these guys are paying $500, $1,000, and they're not getting crap. They're not getting crap, man. So do you know from the top of your head any exposure camps that you can name that are respectable in the overseas market?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said. And to be, 100% completely honest with you, I haven't found one yet that I would say is a good opportunity for a guy looking to go overseas. And I say that because that's a little bit of a loaded question. And I kind of look at it from all angles in terms of, one, is there coaches in the gym? Two, is it ran professionally? And three, what's the level of competition that you see? And essentially, when you guys who go to exposure type of camps, they're all usually around the same type of skill level. They're not your high level guys that are just completely jumping out of the gym, but you can see, a high to mid major guy in there every now and then that's just hooping. So the only reason I would say that I haven't really found one is because I personally have not been to an exposure camp where I've seen more than 5 coaches in the gym at one time. And if my whole point of the camp is to be seen with exposure, then I don't think that, 5 coaches for the 200 players that are here, it's not a good sample size for me to feel like, okay, I feel like enough eyes saw what I did today. Two, I think that those things are just completely overpriced for what you get. If I'm going to Vegas and I'm playing 3 guaranteed games, 4 guaranteed games, the world's that $500 going to, that sort of thing. So if I am a player, I tell guys all the time when they ask me that question, what's a good overseas camp to go to? A lot of guys think that the Vegas one is great, kind of where I saw you at, just because it's happening around the same time as Summer League. So I would say if you were to go to a camp like that, then your best bet is to go to one that is in Vegas. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, Summer League is happening at the same time. So, a lot of times overseas teams know that stuff is going on. So, you never know. They could leave a Summer League game and just go check out an exposure camp just to see, what's in the gym. You might find a diamond in the rough, but more times than not, teams can find guys that are at those camps just by, vetting through their email. Teams get emails from thousands of agents a day. So, if I'm just going to, from a business sense, would I rather go sit in the gym and, potentially waste 2 hours trying to find that one player that can make my team great? Or do I just reach out to my overseas contact that I have that has found me my last 4 point guards the last 3 seasons? So I think that in terms of overseas, it's just not it. Those exposure camps just aren't the best way to go. And if I were a player, then what I would do is I would ask the camp, the host, can you give me a list of the teams that are going to be there? If they can do that for you, then I reach out to those teams directly if I'm a player. Hey, my name is Solomon Yon. I'll be at this camp in Vegas. I look forward to potentially meeting you. I'm on team XYZ. My number will be 20. So, I mean, there's a way to be proactive about it, but I tell players, if you seriously want to get some exposure, I tell guys a lot of good things, a lot of good things that they can do is, one, go to a G League tryout. And the good thing about those G League tryouts is, like I said, I worked for the Legends, so I know that they go into those tryouts with no ulterior motives. I've seen guys walk in the gym that didn't play Division I basketball that have, been signed by the Texas Legends just because they went out and they had a great day just hooping. So I would say go to every local G League tryout that you can. They're cheaper than, the overseas camps, but at least you're being seen by G League personnel. And to piggyback that, a lot of teams have, like you were saying in the text, a lot of teams have semi-pro teams within the city of the G League team. So a lot of times those organizations are connected, and they'll recommend players to their semi-pro teams. So to make a long answer longer, I would say I can't confidently give you an answer on an overseas camp that I feel, confident is good for exposure at this point.
No, I love that answer. I love that answer. I definitely agree with you, man. Those camps are overpriced. Even
Right.
even with me, when I wanted to go, when I went to the Heart Sports Management, um, I questioned it because I was like, oh heck no, like I don't need, especially when you played overseas a few years, you're like, what am I? I'm not doing this. You can never accurately depict the numbers of guys who got a shot from an overseas exposure camp. Because I mean, I remember I went to one year and I got nothing from the camp, but I got an overseas job, and so they counted me as their success story, even though it had nothing to do with them. And
Right.
I think a lot of these camps do that as well, where they look at the list of guys who attended the camp, and these guys may have went to the G League Open tryout, like you just said, did well for themselves, did it all on their own. But you know
Right.
what? They're going to take that credibility because you went to their camp. And so now, next year, when you're looking at the list of players who succeeded from the camp from the previous season, you're going to be like, oh, shoot, this dude went to the G League. Maybe this is my chance to go to the G League.
Right. It's misinterpreted stats for sure.
Exactly.
Misinterpreted information.
If you are a smaller level guy, doesn't have to be D3, but D2 guy who averaged pretty good numbers. What are some options outside of this exposure camp world where these guys can actually get an opportunity to play overseas basketball?
It's a great question. And, my answer is probably not going to be what you expect. But, if I'm a mid major talent with, I average maybe 12 points a game, then at that point, I think your first step is to get an overseas agent. That's probably the best move for, someone that's not a high division 1 athlete. I would say to get an overseas agent. And the reason I say that is because they have it's so hard to really gauge the market from United States, and you really just got to put yourself in their situation. If it was vice versa, if they're looking for, NBA talent or a chance to play in the G League, it's best to get information from people directly in the States that see it, that know what the level of competition is, that have seen guys from equal levels be successful. So I would just say step one I would say to get an overseas agent that's stationed in Germany, anywhere in Europe, and go on their website, see their players, see where they went, and find a player that's similar to you from position to body to build to stats, and see where his career trajectory went, where he started off, what his stats were, where his second year deal was, and then you can kind of project where you fit in that formula. So I would say, yeah, first things first, get an overseas agent, just because they'll have more expertise on the market. And that's really what's going to be important when you're a guy that doesn't, jump out on paper. You really want to be with an agent that understands the market and that knows a market for, players of your caliber. So get an overseas agent. I would say have a profile made with 3 full games, and a lot of guys think that putting your best game out there is the best thing to do. I say put 2 really good games that you had and 1 game where just a solid game, nothing crazy statistically, because if a team is really interested in you, they'll go above and beyond to really dive in and figure out what your game is. So you don't feel like you have to get 3 games where you score 50 points. I mean, those things can speak for themselves, but more so teams want to see, how does he play when he's down? What does he do? Is he a teammate that's going to find the hot hand when his teammate's having a good game? So just little things like that. And what we actually started doing for our guys this year is we actually have sent out workout videos to different teams. And in a time like this where there's not much activity, it seems like the last college game was years ago, just because we haven't seen live sports in so long. So, giving the team something current to see, where your skill set is right now can kind of, just give you maybe a leg up on the next guy. Okay, I see this is a workout video from last week. He looks good. He's shooting it well. Maybe we give him a second look. Just anything that can kind of give you an upper hand, I would say to do that and have every resource, at the team's disposal, at their fingertips when you reach out to them. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that as well. Just having those multiple games, because I had to learn that as well. Where I would have that one game and I would send it to teams, and then they would be like, "All right, well, can you send me a one where you didn't score 42 points? Like, can I see
Right.
something? Can I get a 20-point, 10 assists, 7 rebound game? Like, let me see
Right.
something around that area where you're not putting your best foot forward." So, no, that's really good.
Right.
That's really good advice. As far as speaking on the overseas market, what are some good overseas leagues to start off in when guys are trying to go overseas? What are some good leagues where guys can actually move up, where it's respected at some level? Because a lot of these overseas leagues, some guys, I talk to a lot of guys through YouTube as well, because I have a YouTube channel, and a lot of guys just are very clueless on the overseas market. And so some guys send me what jobs they have and what opportunities they have. And I never try to discourage guys and say, don't take this opportunity. But then as well, I say, look at your situation, look at how many years you've been playing. Don't get stuck in this cycle of playing these low-level leagues where you get stuck and, you go into the next season, you already average 26 points in this league, but it's not respected, so it's not helping you, and you got paid $400. And so now when you're trying to negotiate your next deal, they're basing it off of what you got paid the previous season. They're like, well, shoot, we'll give you $700. And, they're going to lowball you because, you took so low money, or, you played on such a low league.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. And you hit the nail right on the head. It's such a big question mark. And I'd be lying if I told you my partner and I we had it all figured out, because we don't. We still learn stuff every day about the overseas market. But what I would say, some great starter leagues, it kind of depends on what you're looking for, as a player. There's leagues that will pay great, but there's not much room for elevation and growth. If you're a guy who's okay with that, then some leagues might be better for you than not. But if you're more so worried about getting to a higher level and you're not so much worried about the first level pay, your first year pay, then there's better situations. So I think it kind of depends on the person and what they're looking for, kind of what their 5-year goal is. If your goal is just to make as much money as you can in the next 5 seasons, then there's some countries in Asia you can go to that are not respected in Europe at all, but will pay you $3,000 to $4,000 a month to play, a 7-month season. Or you a guy who, I want to play in BBL Germany. I don't care how long it takes. Okay, maybe taking a deal in the top division in Luxembourg, making $1,200 a month is a better situation for you. So I think it kind of depends on the player. But in terms of leagues, if you're looking for leagues that are respected, that really recruits rookies, and there's room for elevation and growth, I would say the Total League in Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a border country of Germany, so again, it's great because it's close to Germany. So I've seen guys move from that country to Germany, which is one of the most respected countries for basketball. I would say if you can get into Finland, Poland, second division or third division Spain, they don't pay much, but you're in Spain. It's a beautiful country. You'll probably get maybe $1,000 a month. Not much, but just hearing the word Spain has more fluff on it than hearing I played in Romania. We just want to be honest. I played in Timbuktu. I made $5,000 a month. Cool, but your league isn't respected. I see guys who go to Qatar all the time. They play really well over there, but it's not the most respected league in Europe. So you can average 30, make 5 racks a month, but is a team in Germany going to respect that team more than, a second division Germany team? Probably not. So, like I said, it really just depends on what you're looking for as a player. If you want to just put your nose down and work for 5 years and be in the BBL by your fifth season, making six figures, then I say you should really try to start in Europe, in a country in Europe, and Poland has really good leagues as well. Like I said, Luxembourg. If you can get to Germany, you're in a great position. But you don't want to be pigeonholed either. So it's kind of a tough situation to be in. You don't want to be pigeonholed where it's tough to elevate from that position either. So you don't want to be stuck in Germany, third division for 2 consecutive seasons. So kind of find that balance between pay. You have to make enough where you can support yourself a little bit, and level of competition. By your first or second year, you really got to be honest with yourself and kind of evaluate your game personally and just say, okay, is this for me? Is this a grind that I'm willing to do for another 2 seasons to get where I want to be? And if so, then yeah, it'll be a grind, but it'll pay off by year 4 or 5.
Also, man, when it comes to, because I know we talked about some options as well when it comes to, trying to get overseas and contacting these agents and getting your film together. What is your opinion on semi-pro basketball? I know they got a lot of these leagues in America, and one thing I always wished is that American leagues were more respected than they currently are, because you got so much talent in America where you only get 1 or 2 guys that get to go overseas and play, and then when you actually go to these leagues and then you come back and tell your friends about the leagues, you're like, man, you could play in this league, honestly, because a lot of these overseas
Right.
guys aren't good as American players. But you got so many American players wanting to go to overseas, because when you're in America, there's no money here. A lot of these leagues don't pay on the semi-pro level, but a lot of guys turn to the semi-pro level to try to get overseas. So do you think that semi-pro leagues can help players who don't have any overseas offers get overseas?
I think yes and no. Um, I think that if your options were to not play overseas and be at home, or not play overseas and be on a semi-pro team, I think that's a better situation than not playing for a whole season. But at the same time, it goes back to kind of being pigeonholed. It's not going to be it's not going to be respected at all. So then at that point, it just comes down to what organization are you with, what connections does this organization have, and what's their track record of helping guys, former players that they've had, get overseas. And I know that the semi-pro team here in Dallas is really good with placing guys. They work closely with the Texas Legends. So that's that. I would recommend that semi-pro team to anybody I speak to. But it just depends. It can kind of be a situation where it's like people think it's below them. They think that it's not that glamorous, which is not supposed to be. But I think if it came down to playing in a semi-pro league and taking a complete full year season off, that's a better solution to me than not playing for a whole season, because then it becomes that much harder to reach out to a team the following season. Okay, what'd you do last year? Oh, well, I didn't play last year. You're getting written off immediately. You know what? That's an immediate red flag. Why didn't this kid play last year? Why does he have a whole year off in between his stats? So it's a lot of things to think about. So I think, like I said, it's just kind of a case by case situation.
That's a lot of the questions I really have for you. The last thing I wanted to ask that I forgot about, um, and it's something that Cy kind of brought to me, but with Odyssey Sports Group, um, what is the formula or the game plan as far as the finding players coming out of college? What do you guys do in order to find those hidden gems or those guys who perform well, and kind of give us a inside look on how agencies find players coming out of college. And, you know, because like I said, when I came out of college, I had some agencies contact me. I had about 4 or 5 of them contact me. And I'm curious in my head, like, how did these guys find me? How did they, you know, find my talent? And so what's the formula for you guys as far as finding talent and really pursuing guys you want?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I think that kind of is different for every agency. And like I said, every agency, you know, if they could have it their way, they'd get that Anthony Edwards, your Zions, of course. Like, why wouldn't you want those guys? But how realistic is that? You know, it's a 1% chance that you get those guys. So really, kind of what we do is we kind of, I mean, there's a lot of there's a million different answers I can give you for this. But with the new thing that the NCAA has implemented where, you know, guys can test the waters, hire an agent, still remain eligible if that agent is NCAA certified. A lot of times, you know, what we will do is we'll find guys who put their name in the draft, but went back to school. Okay. These guys obviously felt that they were good enough. And when players do that, they receive feedback from NBA teams. So, you know, from that gives us automatic something that we can talk to a team about. Okay, Cyrus, he put his name in the draft. Let's hit up, you know, our guys with the Nuggets and see what they thought about him. Then we're getting direct feedback from NBA teams to see if it's even worth us going after him, you know, the following season. When it comes to, you know, guys that we kind of know are going to be overseas guys, and you kind of just have to look at it like, if you didn't get the cutest girl in school, then you're going to get the second cutest girl in school. If you can't get the second cutest girl, you want to get the third cutest girl. So it's kind of just like that. You know, NBA Summer League happens, teams are going to keep probably the guy they drafted and maybe one other guy they signed to their Summer League team to invite to camp. Of those remaining 13 guys, the G League team will have, you know, their chance to get the guys that they want. The guys that they don't sign to a G League team, overseas teams want to get those guys because, okay, he was good enough to play for an NBA G League team, didn't quite get invited to camp, but I'm sure he's better than 60% of the guys we can get in Europe. So it's all just like a downward, just what's best available kind of thing. So kind of when we're going for, you know, guys that we recruit, we really do look for guys who would be, you know, high level overseas guys, which are any guy above 6'5" that can shoot the three, you know, above 40%, you're gonna make money somewhere.
Right.
If you have some athleticism and you can shoot the ball pretty well, you can fill it up, you're gonna make money somewhere. You know, so it's just kind of knowing what the game is today. You know, any stretch four in the league is going to play for 10 years because that's just how the game is evolved. You know, your 6-foot point guards that pick up full court but average 10 and 5, it's a little bit harder for you to get a job just because if I can get a 6'7" guy who's decent at dribbling, but he's a better shooter, you know, I can kind of work with that more from a team standpoint. So you kind of just have to put yourself in the shoes of an NBA or overseas GM. You know, what would you want on your team? And you kind of just have to go for it that way. And obviously, you know, the internet is such a great resource, and really just do your homework. You know, look at the 60 picks from last year. How many of them were wings? How many of them were small forwards? How many of those guys were first or second year guys? How many guys actually stayed 4 years? You know, it's rare to see a guy get drafted that stayed 4 years in college. You know, you got your Josh Harts, you got your Jalen Brunsons, but those are one-off type of guys. So a lot of times for us, like I said, we'll shoot for the stars for sure. But you know, we have no problem really digging in and looking at the analytics and finding, you know, the 6'7" shooter from North Florida who would led his team in scoring and made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. You know, you look for those guys to kind of go for after because, yeah, they'll have aspirations and dreams of being in the G League, but they're next year. So it's such a hard question to answer with just, you know, one or two answers because it's just such case by case situation. But that's kind of like how we like to do it. We kind of, we'll get together as a team and we'll come up with a comprehensive plan. Okay, what 10 guys do we really want to, focus in on for this season? Okay, what were his numbers last year? What will we project his stats to be this year? And then we really just watch it and then just see how his game ends up, faring by the end of the season.
No, that's great, man. No, man, that's great information right there. I think we tackled a lot of the stuff I wanted to ask. No, that's great information. I mean, even for myself, I know I learned a lot just from this conversation. It's not too many opportunities where you can have a agent and you guys just discuss the market or everything going on and just kind of pick their brain on the best strategies for these things. I think, man, it'll help a lot of players. Just this conversation we had today, man. I think a lot of players will learn a lot because guys never think of it from a business perspective, and
Right.
that's one thing that you have to do, for your clients.
Right.
Think of it from the business side of things, and a lot of guys treat the game as like, all right, we're just gonna go out here and hoop. And what a lot of guys have to start doing is putting themselves in the shoes of an agent, putting themselves in the shoes of a overseas coach, overseas GM, and say, all right, what ways can I make myself more of a catch for these guys? What way can
Right.
I put myself in these people's eyes? And so I definitely appreciate, all the information because I think, what we take from this conversation and apply to the film is definitely going to help a lot of guys who are looking to go overseas, kind of opening their eyes to, ways they can make themselves look better.
So, one of the questions that I have that I'm pretty curious about, and just stuff that we've heard from Vegas and other athletes, considering like newbies, not so much like the experienced, but when you're getting approached by agents for an athlete's perspective, um, what are some red flags and what are some key things that new athletes graduating college should look at when signing with an agency? What from your experience could you give to those athletes, being like, watch out for these types of agents, or these are the types of agents you should stick with?
What I would say is, just in working, in the business and brainstorming with different agents, just kind of seeing how they recruit and do certain things. I think, it goes back to your point of looking at it from a business perspective. So, kind of, I'll say, even when we recruit our guys, we're very upfront about everything. If the player seems interested off our initial pitch, you know, and kind of what we do is we lay everything out, like I said, so there's nothing in fine print that you didn't know. So one thing that I would say, I'll actually do this, Cyrus. I'll say questions to ask in order to find red flags with agents, because it's kind of, they're going to tell you everything you want to hear. But good questions to ask if you are, looking for an agent is obviously, what's your history? What guys have you worked with? Where are they at now? And literally from that, you can ask players directly and get the most honest feedback that you can get, because they've been in the situation that you're in. So I would just say, ask who have they worked with, where are they now, and just kind of get testimonials from their players if you can. Look out for any agents um, that are just not are unaware of your game. I would just say that it's very important for your agent to know your game, because he's selling you. He's the one that's pitching you to teams every day. So, make sure that he knows your game. Make sure he knows, what position you want to play overseas. We've had guys that are shooting guards, but a little bit taller. Teams want to recruit them as a 3 or a 4 man. And obviously that's a conversation that we have with them, but make sure they know exactly what position you want to play. it will suck to think you're getting recruited as a shooting guard, but they want to put you, on the block to guard 3 men, and then you're getting beat up all game because you're guarding a guy bigger than you. So that's one thing that's important to ask. Also, just what what the summer looks like to them for you in terms of training, in terms of where they think you need to get better. And if that doesn't align with the goals you have for yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean that the agent is wrong or bad, but it may just mean that you have to refocus the order of what's important to you in the off season. When it comes to our guys, we don't really pay for off court training or off season training. But if we do, then we look at it as essentially a loan. We'll loan you the money to get a trainer that we trust. We're gonna definitely be a part of that process, but we're gonna have you sign something, and we would need whatever we helped you pay for. We would need that back in 5 years. So a lot of those things are just important to know, because a lot of guys go into it, okay, look, I'm signing with an agent. He's going to pay for my training. He's going to give me a stipend. And then when those things don't happen, and you're just kind of stuck, it's like, dang, what do I do? It's summertime. I don't have money. I don't have a gym to work out at. I don't have a trainer that I can go to. I thought my agent was going to take care of all this for me. But from the agent's perspective, he's looking at it from a business standpoint. Okay, if I shell out $2,000 this summer for training, how long is it going to take for me to get this $2,000 back? How good is this player? How much money is he going to make his first season? Maybe not that much. Okay, that's going to determine how much money I'm willing to invest in him in this initial summer. So I would just say, just don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask who's the best client he's had. Ask who's the worst client he's had and why. Because you want to hear, the things that your agent is used to working with, things that he doesn't like to work with. And then 2, just try to know your agent on a little bit of a personal level. If you can't, I know your agent's never supposed to be like, I guess, your psychiatrist or your therapist, but if there can't be regular dialogue and communication outside of just, hey, have you found me a job yet? Then I don't think that's a good working relationship.
Perfect, man. Wow, yeah, that was great. I wasn't expecting that. That was cool.
Yeah, it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to look at it because I didn't play basketball long enough to where I was actually recruited by agents to play overseas. I stopped before that even became a thing. So that's just one thing that I would say to look out for. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You have to ask questions, because the last thing you will want to do is, sign with an agent and be completely blindsided by things that come after you sign, because then you're kind of stuck. So ask a lot of questions and do your own homework on your agent or prospective agent.
Got you, man. Got you. Man, I think you pretty much knocked it out the park with that. I do have one side note just while we have you. Cam, let me know if yes or no, but I just thought of this. With athletes being able to make money off of their name, their likeness, how are you looking at that from your company's perspective, gearing up for when that time comes for players in college to start profiting and making that? How from your company's perspective, I know that's probably something that's you guys are discussing.
Yeah, and it's a great, just another competitive advantage that you can, use as a recruiting pitch. And essentially with that, obviously we have to wait for the black and white rules within it. The NCAA hasn't released all of the rules within it, but I think it's a great opportunity to kind of level the playing field out a little bit for lower level agents and smaller agencies like myself and Odyssey, because if you're able to bring money to the table to an athlete before he's even professionally, then I think that raises your stock a lot more. Just with anything, a lot of times kids in college, they're driven by emotion and what they see. So they're very emotional. They're very immature. 9 times out of 10, they're all going to like the flash. They're all going to like money. Who doesn't like money? Who doesn't like nice cars? And a lot of times guys are going to think they're better than they are, which is just what it is. So I think it's a great competitive advantage to sort of level out the playing field in terms of recruiting. Because, if a smaller agency can, provide a situation where they're bringing money and a situation to a player, then, it doesn't guarantee that they'll get the player. But I mean, it gives them a little better of a shot than if they're just recruiting them solely off of, the relationship that they're going to build. So I think with that, it's going to be very interesting to see just the specifics with the cans and the cannots within that, because it's going to be very hard for the NCAA to monitor that and monetize it to where it's, not just a complete circus. So I think it's a great opportunity to just level out the playing field.
Perfect, man. Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on that, just because I know that's something that's going to be happening soon, and I know that's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens.
For sure.
But I think that it's a good step. I think it's a good step in the right direction because, with the path the G League is going, offering, $500,000 for elite high school players to join. I think that, that's a good counter to that because, who knows, in the next 10 years, we could see college basketball slowly seeming to become extinct, with getting high level guys to go. Because, if I'm a Jalen Green and, there's $500,000 for me to play 10 G League games, forego college, still get my education, why not? It's a very attractive option for an 18-year-old kid to seriously consider. So I think that was a good step for the NCAA to kind of counter what the G League and the NBA is doing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's crazy. But yeah, that'll go ahead.
No. Those are great questions. So those are really good questions. Honestly, I haven't really thought about it much either. But yeah, I mean, especially like a guy, especially if guys are going 1 year and out, why not just go to the G League? You're not learning anything that 1 year of college. More than anything, you're just going to get a college experience, maybe go to a few house parties, play some pong, but you're not really doing it.
Right. More than likely, those guys don't even want to be in school.
Right.
So why? Why waste your time with it? Why waste your coach's time? Why waste your teacher's time? Why waste a scholarship? So it's definitely it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely intrigued, eager to see, what happens next. I think that this pandemic is really giving everybody a chance to, kind of reset and kind of just plan your next plan of attack. There's a lot of question marks. If the NCAA season doesn't happen, then what? What do college guys do if they don't get a season? Do you stay another year? Do you just leave because, hey, might as well try to go pro. I didn't play a whole season, so it's really going to be interesting to see, what the future holds these next 3 months. But, as long as just staying ready and being prepared, staying on our toes to see.
How does an athlete, from your perspective as an agent, when is it time to part ways with an athlete?
For me, like to fire a client?
Yeah. I'm just curious on what something like that would be. Like, what would a player, obviously, here's the thing I would assume. Number one, they play bad, or something happens, let's say criminally, where maybe it doesn't look good for your guys' brand to have an athlete like that. But I would like to just know from your words, what would that be like to part ways with